Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, this is Drewatron and welcome to my video about Battlefield 1 sidearms. So the reason I've chosen this topic for my video is that I feel like a lot of people aren't giving their choice in sidearm much thought. And that's understandable. For the most part you'll be using your primary weapon to make most of your kills. What I want to show you though is that using a sidearm isn't something to be avoided. They're effective weapons in their own right, and with correct use can complement your gameplay so that you end up coming out on top in those tricky encounters you might otherwise be on the losing end of. The art is just knowing what to pick and how to use it. Since this is quite a broad topic, I'll be splitting the video up into two parts. In part 1 I'll be going through all of the sidearms and giving you some insight into the strengths and weaknesses of each. In part 2, I'll then cover how you go about choosing a sidearm to best complement your playstyle and your primary weapon. By the way, the gun I'm using in this clip is the Repetierpistole for the support class, and if you ask me, it's a complete beast. I mean, just look at it. And whilst we're talking about this clip, this obviously isn't how I'd normally play a game of Conquest, but I've just unlocked this weapon, and it's important to familiarise yourself with a weapon which you've just unlocked. You're not really going to understand the behaviour of a sidearm if you only use it once or twice in a game. So this is something that I would recommend that anyone should do. When they unlock a new sidearm, play half a game, just with the sidearm. But I would just say make sure you pick a map where you can engage people in close quarters a lot, such as Argonne Forest, the one I'm playing at the moment. This is perfect. Otherwise you're going to get really peeved off at everyone chewing you up at medium and long range. So let's get into it. In Battlefield 1 you have access to 6 sidearms that are universally available to all classes. Each class also has access to 3 sidearms specifically for that class. Now of the 6 universally available sidearms, 3 of them are available at the start of your soldier's progression, and 3 of them are available upon reaching level 10 in the Assault class, the Scout class and the Support class. So the natural place to start is the sidearms available at the beginning of your character progression, the M1911, the PO8 and the MLE 1903. First up, the M1911. This is the sidearm your soldier starts with by default. The main advantage it has over the other two is the slightly higher damage output. Within 10 meters it's capable of eating an enemy's health up in just 3 shots, provided you hit the upper body. If you're hitting limbs or the lower body, you need to be closer than 10 meters. Onto the PO8, this gun requires you to land a minimum of 4 shots to kill a healthy opponent, assuming one of those shots doesn't find its way to the opponent's head, of course. It's a 4-shot kill anywhere on the body or limbs all the way out to 15 meters, and matches the M1911's damage performance from this point onwards. This gun holds one more round in the magazine than either the MLE 1903 or the 1911. More bullets to shoot until you need to reload, but you should also consider that it will reduce the likelihood of you needing to perform an empty reload. Now for those that don't know, an empty reload means you'll end up with 1 less round in your weapon after having reloaded, and it will also take you longer to reload as you have to chamber the first round of the magazine before being able to fire. Something to think about if you find yourself frequently wishing your sidearm had more stamina. Now onto the MLE 1903. The most notable difference with this gun is it has a slightly higher rate of fire than the other two, and out to about 30 meters it will pretty well do the same damage as the PO8, after which it will tail off to a slightly lower minimum value. It's worth noting as well that the MLE 1903 and to a lesser extent the PO8 have much lower recoil values than the M1911. Now if you want to land multiple shots in quick succession on a target that's further away, you really need to iron sight your weapon, and that's where these lower recoil values really come in handy. It's definitely something that the MLE especially has over the 1911. On to the last 3 universal sidearms, the level 10 unlocks. These include the C93, the Kolibri and the No. 3 Revolver. Let's start with the C93. You unlock this weapon using the support class, and it's a gun I actually quite like. It possesses both the larger magazine capacity of the PO8 and the increased rate of fire of the MLE 1903. Now it does do less maximum damage than either of those weapons, but it's still a 4-shot kill all the way out to the same range of 15 meters. Now the other thing this gun has going for it are its iron sights. Provided you can get used to the constant bouncing up and down of the toggle lock mechanism, the visibility of the front sight makes it very easy to aim at distant targets. although that aforementioned bouncing does make it harder to track a moving target. If your aim is to humiliate your opponent, it's best to pick this gun, the Kolibri. It only does 2 damage per hit, so it's best used to finish off a heavily damaged opponent. However, if you really fancy rubbing salt in the wound, you can take down an opponent from full health by taking advantage of the massive damage bonus you get for headshots, up to 25 damage per hit. The last of the universal sidearms is the number 3 Revolver. Unlocked using the Assault class, this gun will do the same damage as any of the class-specific revolvers. So that's 53 damage up close, and it will be a 2-shot kill out to 9 meters. A lot of people don't like this gun, but personally I love it. If you're not playing as a medic, it's the only revolver you can choose that allows you to reload all 6 rounds at the same time. The reason a lot of people can't get along with this gun is its low rate of fire, and since the December patch, this gun has been upgraded from 150 rounds per minute to 164, still leaving it as the slowest firing sidearm in the game, but perhaps it's enough to sway a few people. So, as well as the 6 weapons that are universally available to all classes, each class also has 3 specific weapons just for that class. They will include a high rate of fire pistol, a revolver, and something that can only be described as unique. So the high rate of fire pistols. Essentially these guns are all pretty similar to each other, so I won't go through them individually, though I would just say that the from stop for the scout class does hold 1 less round than the other 3 guns. But just so you know what they are, we have the 1903 Hammerless for the Assault class, the Taschenpistole M1914 for the Medic class, the Modello 1915 for the Support class, and the Fromestop for the Scout class. These weapons in general are really effective at close range. Whilst technically the revolvers will kill quicker, that does rely on you not missing a shot. The advantage of these high rate of fire pistols is that in close range encounters, it doesn't matter so much if you miss 1 or 2 shots, because you can make up for it just by spamming the fire button so quickly. However, once you get further out, relying on hip firing doesn't really work. You'll run into situations where you spend your entire magazine and you haven't quite finished your opponent. There's a clip of me doing that right now. So you'll have to start using your iron sights, and actually they're pretty effective. They're quite easy to iron sight, these guns in general. Here's a clip of me using the Modello for the Support class. This gun, by the way, is my favourite of the 4 because it just looks damn cool. But especially in this last clip, you can see that these guns are actually pretty effective at medium to long range once you start iron sighting them. Now let's talk about the revolvers. These things do loads of damage. Up close, you'll have a guaranteed 2-hit kill. This actually makes them the fastest killing guns up close. A lot of people don't like the revolvers, but these are the fastest killing guns up close as long as you don't miss. And as well, you've got 6 bullets. That's enough to kill 3 opponents if you're careful with your aim. Now the crux of these weapons. You have to reload 1 bullet at a time. This is really time consuming, can get you into a lot of trouble if you're not aware of who's around you. The only notable exception is the auto revolver for the medic class. This is the only one of the 4 that can reload all 6 bullets at the same time. So let's get into some specifics. First up, the gasser for the assault class. This thing has by far the greatest long-ranged killing potential of any sidearm. It's a 2-shot kill all the way out to 21 meters, and despite having a low fire rate, it's not slow to kill. So this gun does have quite high recoil, which means you'll have to take your time a bit with more distant targets. But this in itself actually helps limit the weapon spread, so you can be quite effective with this weapon, even hip firing at longer ranges. But using the iron sights, you can also make kills at ranges I'd consider to be well outside the normal remit of a sidearm. Onto the auto revolver for the medic class. Like the majority of revolvers, you'll be able to kill someone with 2 shots out to a range of 9 meters. But as mentioned previously, its most notable feature is that it's the only one of the class-specific revolvers that can have all 6 rounds reloaded simultaneously. The number 3 still reloads quicker, but you might choose to take the auto revolver for its superior fire rate of 225 rounds per minute. The Bulldog revolver for the support class is the most potent of the revolvers up close thanks to its high fire rate of 258 rounds per minute. Even if you miss a shot, it's still brutally quick to kill. Damage performance over distance is on par with the number 3, so nothing special there, but that snub-nose configuration does give it the fastest deploy time of any revolver. It's my preferred weapon for room cleaning or dealing with people who choose to invade my personal space. Finally, we have the Bodeo. You know this gun means business because it doesn't have a trigger guard. Since the December patch, this gun will now produce a 2-shot kill all the way out to 15 meters. I'm guessing that would have been a 2-shot. With the high rate of fire pistols and the revolvers down, that just leaves the unique sidearms. None of them are quite alike, so I'll discuss them individually. I'll start with the Mars Automatic. This thing is a bit of a hand cannon. It's the slowest firing of all of the semi-automatics, but it does great damage, has fantastic range, not to mention a huge magazine capacity of 11 rounds. This makes it a pretty capable stand-in for your primary weapon. Now the challenge with this weapon is that even though it's a 3-shot kill all the way out to 21 meters, you'll still have to put 3 bullets into your opponent at point-blank range, so you'll often have difficulties when challenged by an opponent with a faster firing weapon. As such, this isn't a gun you can afford to miss with too often, and in fact it might be the only sidearm I'd recommend keeping your distance with. You've already seen me play with the Repetierpistole at the start of this video, but I didn't really say anything about it, other than comment on how cool it looks. Damage performance is identical to the PO8, and like the M1903 and the C93, it has a slightly higher rate of fire than the PO8 or the M1911. The interesting thing about this gun is that it reloads using stripper clips, which means, unlike weapons that use a detachable magazine, it will always hold its maximum capacity of 8 rounds after having performed a reload. It also means that it will actually take longer to reload if you don't use all your rounds up first. At least you never need to feed individual rounds into this gun. You just kind of spray your unused ones all over the ground and put a new clip in. I guess being a support guy you can always get more. The C96 for the medic class. Holding 10 rounds, this pistol has the next highest magazine capacity of any sidearm next to the Mars Automatic, which holds 11. Like the Repetierpistole, it loads using stripper clips, but unlike the Repetierpistole, you will be feeding individual rounds into this gun if you reload before the weapon is empty. Although, you might notice that the ammo count climbs quicker than the animation actually shows you feeding bullets into the gun. I would suggest this gun is best used as a backup weapon that doesn't need to be called upon very often, since it has good stamina but the reload time can cause you problems if you want to use it in a more aggressive manner. And be careful, those 10 rounds can disappear quicker than you might think. The Howdah for the assault class is a pretty interesting weapon. It only holds 4 rounds, but up close it hits as hard as a revolver doing a 2-shot kill. It also has a fire rate to match the fastest firing revolver and a reload time that is almost on par with the auto revolver for the medic class. You can get away with slightly longer range use if you're a crack shot, but its territory is really more up close and personal. On paper, an appealing weapon, however it requires very careful use to be effective in practice. I wouldn't want to fire it in an unrestricted manner unless I'd already put a few bullets into my target using my primary weapon. Any other scenarios benefit from more controlled firing, as you can easily end up having to reload mid-engagement otherwise. Well, that concludes part 1 of my sidearms guide. Do hope you've enjoyed watching and found it useful. If you did, please give it a like. I'm hoping you won't dislike it, but if you do, let me know what you didn't like so I can improve. Before making this video, I found a lot of slightly superficial guides out there, and although I have given my own opinion at times, my aim here was to give you a deeper level of insight into the subject rather than just telling you what to think of each weapon. Hope that didn't make it too dry. If you're into something a little more light-hearted, check out my Hunting News with Drewatron series. Presently at the grand count of 1 episode, but with plenty more on the way. So finally, if you found part 1 of this guide useful, make sure you subscribe to receive part 2. Where I'll be discussing how to actually go about choosing the right sidearm to complement your kit, playstyle, and even the game specifics. Though I'm finding out these gaming guides take an awfully long time to produce, so I plan to be releasing some other short videos prior to part 2 just to keep my channel alive. Anyway, ta-ta for now.